6:15 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, let's go with the thing that is captivating the attention of the nation. Prime Minister Keith Rowley is asking the question, when did he deny that he gave information to the Police Service Commission by communicating with its chairperson? In a post on his Facebook page, Dr. Rowley said that he denied that he was in any meeting with the chairman and the president. Did anybody say he was in a meeting with the chairman and the president? And he denied having any conversation or giving instructions to anyone about the merit list, etc., etc., etc. The Prime Minister is responding to Attorney at Law Larry Lala, asking, and we quote, "Where does it say that I have not provided pertinent information to the chairman of the commission?" Well, you are free to have your speculations, but feel no shame for me. The only thing that comforts me is that you are not my lawyer. Clearly, in your world, facts and logic don't matter. What matters is any foolish cause you choose to associate with. End quote. Well, let's get another legal perspective on the matter. And indeed, we are joined by former member of the Police Service Commission, Attorney at Law Martin George. A very, very good morning to you, Mr. George. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi, good morning to you, Fazil, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
What do you make of this?
Well, Fazil, you know, the thing is, it's difficult to be at one and the same time a pyromaniac and a firefighter. And it appears, unfortunately, that some of these difficulties which have caused this conundrum are basically self-inflicted. You know, as in chess, you know, when you talk about you make an unforced error, I think really and truly this scenario has been the result of a series of unforced errors by some, you know, high officials who really ought to have, I think, maybe been a bit more circumspect in their approach to how they handled this entire imbroglio.
And I always learn something from you. I always remember you telling me that you're not putting all your bags in one basket. Yeah, you're doing, because I was trying to correct it, and I realized that it was a terminology. Pyromania, and the reason I know it is because I had to Google it quickly while you said it. Pyromania is an impulse control disorder in which individuals repeatedly fail to resist impulses to deliberately start fires. So are you saying this was an act of pyromania by the Prime Minister?
Well, the thing is, you see, okay, let's look at the mea culpa that we saw in the Express interview. It appeared to be something that was volunteered. I didn't see that it was something that the interviewer wrenched out of the Prime Minister. He is the one who then volunteered and said, well, you know, he was the high official that was present, you know. So, I mean, the nation was a bit, you know, surprised, because all we've had previously was, you know, a series of cloak and dagger moves and smoke and mirrors, and no one coming out clearly to say so. So, you know, I mean, all of this could have been avoided if from the get-go this had been made clear and it had been said, well, yes, I was there and I was exercising my duty as I thought. Of course, questions would arise as to why it had to be exercised in such a manner, in such a dramatic fashion, you know, of, you know, being present at the time when this list is supposed to be handed to the president. So, of course, those things, I think, would need answers also. But all of this, I think, really seems to be self-inflicted in a way, you know. And I
but
mean,
why, Martin George? Why would the Prime Minister do this now? Is it because of the licks that the government and by Pariat fuel trading that they are getting in relation to that diving disaster of more than 2 weeks ago?
Well, I mean, I have heard, I mean, some speculation from persons in that regard. I mean, of course, as to what exactly is motivating him, I can't say. But, you know, sometimes I have said that, you know, sometimes our dear Prime Minister is never quite so eloquent as when he's silent, you know. But the fact of the matter is that he sometimes speaks and then, you know, opens these, you know, cans of worms, you know, or opens a Pandora's box, and then, you know, you have to then be fighting to get the genie back into the bottle, and you wonder why was this done? If it was for the purpose of a red herring, then, I mean, all credit to him. It has served its purpose as a national distraction. But if it were that, you just volunteered this without any, without any credible reason whatsoever, then it really is a case of being a pyromaniac and a firefighter at the same time, because you see now he has to be coming out and be battling on, other fronts with, other persons trying to, give explanations. But the reality is...
Yes, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Mr.
The reality is, for you, there is a duty and a responsibility if you, as Prime Minister or the head of the National Security Council, if you do have very pertinent, credible information in relation to one of the candidates who is vying for the post of Commissioner of Police, you have a duty to bring that to the attention of the Police Service Commission. The question is, it's not a question of what you did, it's how it was done. And that's why the nation understandably has had questions and has raised issues in this regard. Because the same way the Prime Minister indicated that he had sent a letter to the Police Service Commission previously when he wanted to complain about the former Commissioner, Gary Griffith. Nobody knew that he had done so. And that is actually a proper format in which to do so. Because I can tell you, for the 9 years I sat on the Police Service Commission, we received letters, emails, messages, all sorts of information on all types of police officers. And that's correct. The public has a duty to do so. And even if you're the Prime Minister and you have the information, of course, yes, you send that information to us. The reason and rationale for this dramatic last-minute 99th hour appearance at President's house and handing the information, I imagine, to the then chairman, Bliss Sipasad, and she, having handed the merit list to the president, and according to the president's office, there was this immediate withdrawal of the list. I mean, it just was totally unnecessary in the absence of some proper explanation as to why it had to be handled in that way. Why wasn't it simply sent to the Police Service Commission by way of correspondence under confidential cover saying, hey, listen, as Prime Minister, as Chairman of the National Security, I've received this information. This is something I think you all ought to take into your consideration. And that type of approach would have been perfect, as opposed to where it appears that one is now personally inserting oneself in the process.
And Martin George, I mean, obviously there are many different layers of it. Much of it is being presented by different interest groups. You have the PNM stooges, you have the UNC fanatics, you have others who are trying to sift through all of this. But I mean, is this cause for any concern, a constitutional? Because we often throw out this phrase, constitutional crisis, crisis of governance, and so on. Is this cause for any real concern?
Absolutely not, Fazir, with the greatest of respect. There's no constitutional crisis arising out of it. This is just crass clumsiness by high officials who have bungled what ought to have been a simple process. But that doesn't elevate it to the level of creating a constitutional crisis. And I'll tell you why. I was the first person, Fazir, on these morning talk shows who brought the nation's attention to the Privy Council case called Jamaicans for Justice versus the Police Service Commission in Jamaica. In that case, there were concerns as to Superintendent Hewitt, who was vying for a high post in the Jamaican Constabulary Force. And concerns were brought to the attention of the Jamaican Police Service Commission. They did not do their own investigation. They simply relied upon word from the police service itself, which basically refuted the claims against Hewitt. The Jamaicans for Justice said, no, that's not good enough. You ought to do your own investigation and find out what is happening. The case went all the way to the Privy Council. And incidentally, the Chief Justice in Jamaica at the time is the same Morrison who is to head the commission for the Paria tragedy, right? So it's the same Chief Justice Morrison. He was the Chief Justice in Jamaica at the time. The case went to the Privy Council, and the Privy Council ruled that the Police Service Commission in Jamaica has a duty to investigate any and all credible information coming to it in relation to any candidate for the post of, for any high post. So therefore, that case applies to Trinidad and Tobago and is binding authority on us also, because it means that our Police Service Commission has a duty to investigate any such information. So in other words, had it been done in a less dramatic fashion, and as I say, had it been done simply by way of correspondence being sent to the Police Service Commission saying, well, look, enclosed is this information, please have a look at it, make your own independent decision, there would be none of this. So maybe there was a reason why the Prime Minister had to use this, 11th hour or, 99th hour, methodology of, putting on his clothes and hustling across the president's house to be there personally to hand this information to the chairman of the Police Service Commission. Maybe he had only gotten the information minutes before. But then in that case, then you need to give some explanation and some clarity. And you should have done so from the start, from the get-go.
And also,
said, I was the person there, and this is the reason why I had to do this, because I didn't have any choice. I understood that she was going to hand in the list, and I got this a few minutes before. I mean, still, I think maybe a phone call